We just both do a different intro at the exact same time.
All right. Hey everyone, it's Isaac from True Champion Gaming, joined by Terry from True Champion Gaming, and today we're going to cover the Fire cards from the Fractured Crown set and give them our reviews of those. So,
Yeah.
Terry, do you just want to start us off right away?
Totally, we can jump right into it. So the first card we've got is going to be Blazing Bowman. So this is an ally, obviously, a ranger human, a 2/1 for 3. It says Blazing Bowman's attacks can't be retaliated. And on enter, you may banish a fire element card from your graveyard. If you do, Blazing Bowman gets 2 attack until end of turn.
Yep.
So what did you rate this one?
2-star.
2-star?
Yeah,
Okay, interesting. I gave it a 4-star. Why'd you give it a 2?
Squirrel wasn't played too much.
Sure.
And this feels very similar to Squirrel. Costs 1 more, but doesn't discard a card from hand, which is a big deal. And I could see it just getting zapped off right away by something small. Nice thing is, I will and by small I mean a spell or something to that sort, not where like an ally, because obviously this says it can't be retaliated. So it can't just be killed by something it's attacking into. So I understand why it's good, and I think that's probably where you're going to say it's a kill spell on a stick.
It is a kill spell on a stick, but honestly, what I'm most excited about for a card like this is it's a 4/1, sure. It can definitely die. It can definitely just get pinged off, whatever. But I think that this card has a lot of play in a very aggressive deck, like kind of the Fire Xander aggro deck that's out right now, where you're really trying to do a bunch of damage on one turn. Utilize your Poison Dagger to get the extra damage through. This is 4 damage for 3, which is a lot. That stat alone, if you can utilize it to its fullest extent, it is very, very strong in that whale. So I love to see a strong, and I guess to kind of counter off it can get pinged off pretty easily. If you're playing this in a very aggressive deck, especially if we end up seeing more red swarm decks, like RDW, Red Deck Wins type style, where we really want to go aggressive, if we start seeing stuff like that, this is a really strong card. And if they've used the removal to deal with some of your other weenies or your other good aggro cards that you played first, all of a sudden you're swinging for 4. And 4 is a lot of damage in this game.
It is. And I didn't give it... 2 was not like, oh, it's garbage. 2 is definitely a high-end 2.
Sure.
I don't know... And that's the thing. It was like, if there is a really good fast-paced red deck, then you definitely put it in
it's
there.
kind of like a burn spell at that time, right?
Exactly.
So
So our next card, Korhazi Arsonist, 3 cost, 2/2. Remove a preparation counter from your champion, and it gains stealth until the end of turn. And then if a unit that is hit by this would die this turn, banish it instead of just going to your graveyard.
Sure.
So this is good for taking off of something that has like floating memory.
Right.
If it can kill Honorable Vanguard, perfect example, 1/2. This just hits it and it dies, and if it's not protected at least, then they don't get that floating memory in their graveyard, which is good. That being said, I did give it a 2.
Sure. So initially looking at it, it's a little rough, right? At least that's what I thought. And the reason being is because it has this remove a prep counter, and we've seen so many cards already that have remove a prep counter abilities, but they give you a prep counter when they enter, right? So you get to use its ability. This is like, hey, if you try to play this early, like for instance, where I think this card would be really strong is exactly what you said, right? So in early, like they're playing a Honorable Vanguard or something that has floating memory that's small. This card would be insane to play, get rid of that without giving them that floating memory. That's a really strong play. Granted, you have to get rid of a prep counter. Or you don't have to get rid of a prep counter, sorry. But in order to really utilize her to her fullest extent and keep her alive to where you can continuously use her, you have to have prep counters. So early on, sure, it's cool. You play it. But at the end of the day, you're kind of just getting rid of a card to get rid of a card. And that kind of feels like you're not really getting ahead. I guess it saves them from having that extra half card of a floating memory. So I gave it a 3.
Sure.
But I think it leaves a little to be desired.
This is one where I could see, I definitely could feel like I'm way wrong on. I mean, it's like there's like a really solid deck that it can really utilize this.
Sure.
I just feel like...
Well, it has self-protection, right?
It can have self-protection.
Right, it can if you have prep counters. So like, if prep counters become something that we have a plethora of in Assassin, then this is a really, really strong card that can just protect itself. I mean, we've seen how strong all of these stealth humans are in Red Assassin decks. And I mean, honestly, we're probably wrong. I bet you this card ends up being really good. But for now, it is what it is. I'll read the next one. So the next one is going to be Flamebreak Chorus. So this is another melody. I know you, of all people, are excited about melodies.
I
Flame Break Chorus, it is a slow action for 2 in the Tamer skill, and it's a melody, as I said before. It does have fast activation with a class bonus, which that is a new keyword that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Target ally gets +2 attack until end of turn. If it's defending, wake it up, and it gets an additional plus level to its attack until end of turn. So if you were, let's say, level 2, and you use this to pump something up, you would give it +4 instead of +2.
Right.
So for me, this card, let me find it on my list. I gave it a 3.
Okay.
What about for you?
This is one where I almost put 2 scores.
Sure.
I really tried it.
Sure.
I did say 2. It's a very close 3.
Okay.
It's a very close 3. Like,
Sure.
I think I was just like, I literally sat there and I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna put 2. And because if I'm wrong, then that's all right.
So in Tamer, if we end up getting a really spammy, like Sylvie Allen deck that's going wide, that's swinging, it's really, really aggressive, this card is a combat trick. So for 2, you do 2 damage, basically. And that's if it's a class bonus, you can use it at a fast speed, right? So that's what's kind of cool. You get access to that. The other thing that is kind of cool, really only if you are in the Tamer class, is you can use this when it defends, right? Or to defend and add that additional attack. So like comboing this with a card that assassin card that kind of lets you double block.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know if I can't remember if that was class bonus or not.
Something assailant, but
but it lets you can block for something else, right? Something like this, if it's possible, and it might not be. So
lurking assailant.
Lurking assailant. Don't hold me to it, but because I can't remember if that's a class bonus or not, or if it allows you just to do it straight up. So if a card like that were to come out that doesn't have class bonus, you could pump it up, give it a bunch of extra attack, and then kill something.
Yeah.
But we've seen in other games, combat tricks are kind of very hit or miss.
Yeah.
And I think that this one is kind of more of a miss.
Yeah, I think you definitely could be wrong. I think there's a card later out. I can't remember, but I think there's a little bit of synergy with it.
Sure.
And so we can come back to it once we see that card.
Sure, totally.
The next card though that we do have is Honed by Fire, 2 cost, Action Warrior Sword Craft, which I think Craft is actually the first time I don't know if that's new or not. I at least haven't recognized it. This is fast, which I do think is interesting because it says target sword weapon you control gets +2 until the end of turn. Class bonus, put a durability counter on it. So I think the reason why it's fast, like I initially when I thought, well, sorry, let's do the review of it first.
Sure.
What did you give it?
I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 3 as well. So I thought fast was interesting. Like, why would you ever play it fast on your opponent's turn? My thinking was when I gave it a 3 was that you can attack with this with your sword. They get something 2 more health, and you're like, okay, now I'm gonna play Home by Fire. Yeah. And so now as it gets over that, they wasted a card. Yeah, you wasted a card, but now you're also getting a durability counter on your sword, but you also get to kill what you wanted. So it's like a counter to their counter.
Sure.
Which I think is kind of interesting play, but also why I think it's not that strong. Also, it is 2 costs for 2, which does feel. And the class bonus is durable the class bonus only have, or the durability only happens with the class bonus, which I think is important to realize.
So where I see this card, I could think of one, and maybe it's because I've practiced so much against Cabe playing with Lorraine over the last few weeks, but I think of this moment, right, where you're playing Fire Lorraine, right, because you want the warrior, the durability. I guess you don't even need the to be a warrior, but utilizing Flame Sweep, right? There's a turn against where you use a Flame Sweep and you swing across for 4, right? Or you swing across for 5. And then they use, Favorable Winds or Song of Nurturing or something like that to buff their board. This is kind of like you said, it's kind of like that counter to that, because you can be like, okay, that's fine. Boom, 2 more damage across the board. If you're swinging with a sword, obviously, and add to it. So that is a very situational use.
Exactly.
Which is what I think this is. I think the only time we're either going to see it really get a lot of use is if we have a really fast beat down Fire Warrior deck. Yeah. Where they want to have a sword, they want to for sure have a sword out. Always. Yeah. And they always want to be swinging. That kind of helps them.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. Yeah. So this next card is Incendiary Fractal. This is the first Fire Fractal, and I think it's the only Fire Fractal.
I believe so. As well.
Yeah, but I know we talked a lot about fractals already, and they are a new class of card, and it's Fantasia. This is a 4-drop Fractal. On enter, deal 2 damage to target ally you don't control. And with the class bonus, which is Mage, you deal 4 damage to that ally instead. And then it has obviously reservable, which lets you utilize it to pay reserve costs.
Yeah. So I end up giving this one a 3.
I gave it a 4 because it's a fractal, and I think that there's a lot of play in that in its own.
Yeah.
But as far as for what it does,
so my problem was the only thing that was that the class bonus was the 4 damage.
Sure.
I easily given this a 4 if the class bonus wasn't. Or it was a class bonus and it just dealt 4 damage.
Sure.
Then I was like, easy 4.
Yeah, in a mage deck, this is a 4.
Yeah.
Because if you are playing mage, 4 damage to an ally that, like, a card that replaces itself because you get to utilize this to cast cards later on.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you get to play this, kill something, and then you get to still utilize that.
It's a 3 cost deal 4 is a good way of looking at it too.
Sure.
Which is solid.
Yeah.
And then for every turn after that, it still is a fine card. So eventually it comes. This one is one where it almost feels like it starts to pay for itself even more so than some of the other fractals, especially the first fractal that we saw.
Yeah. I think if we ever also find, like, I think this card is really cool in like a mid-range mage deck, and I want to throw it out there. We have a new mage in this set.
Yeah.
So I want to say, like, when we talk mage before, really you were talking about Rye, right? Like that was really it. You weren't seeing a lot of Merlin, but now we're going to see a lot more Merlin.
Yeah.
And so in a slower fire deck, maybe it's going all the way up to Crux and utilizing a card that we're not talking about yet, Merlin, but everybody knows her.
Yeah.
So if we get to that point, maybe this card actually does see quite a bit of play.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely possible.
Yeah.
Our next one is Innervate Fury, which is a 3-cost mage spell. Talking about mage already. And there's an additional cost to activate the card. And also, sorry, I should bring up, this is another one of those innervates. So there's one for every color or element, a basic element. And so we covered the water one in our water video. Plug, if you haven't watched that, go watch it now because I'm going to compare this to that one.
Sure, totally.
So Innervate Fury.
That's going to be hard to do.
Yeah, well, as additional cost to activate this card, de-level your champion, recover 5, which is what most of these do. I think all of them do that. And then deal 7 damage split among any amount of target allies. So this feels like, to me, and I'll give it, I think I gave it a 3. I gave it a 3. What did you give it?
I also gave it a 3.
So the water one giving you draw 2 is definitely better.
Yeah, it's a lot stronger.
Than dealing 7.
At least at base value. So sure, this card in certain situations is going to be a lot better.
Right.
I mean, if you're in a situation where you're, like we said, if we start seeing a lot of really fast, low to the ground, beat down decks, and you're playing more of a big red deck, this card is actually pretty strong. And being able to ping multiple, because I think what makes it good is the fact that it can split. So this is like a pseudo board wipe.
Yes, it's a pseudo board wipe that, like, it's like you protect yourself to recover 5, then you protect yourself to clear some stuff. Like that is the goal. And I know it would have been too strong at unit, but I wish at least one of those damage could go face.
Yeah, imagine it was just 7 to target unit. So you just go, oh, so all I have to do at the end is just de-level myself and 7 them in the face. But no, I think this card is pretty balanced. I think that it does have its use. The reason it got 3 for me is because it's not something you're going to see included in every red deck.
Yes.
It's not something you're going to see included in most red decks. I think it takes a very specific red deck for this to really get used.
And it is important to know that this one is, I think the other one is slow as well, but this is slow. And that's a big deal because if you think you're going to die, you're not going to be able to recover 5 just then. And you're not able to kill off stuff just then. So this is on your turn. So don't think this is like a get out of jail free, like, oh, I'm good for this turn. It's, you have to be proactive with it.
Exactly. And that's something people, I think, forget about in this game. We don't have like a summoning sickness mechanic, right?
Yeah.
So when I play things, I can attack unless they come in tapped.
Yeah.
So in most games, a card like this is a board wipe, right? Because that card has to play, it has to sit for a turn, and then it can attack. Whereas, like you just, explained, just because you deal with the stuff that they have on the board right now doesn't mean they're going to play 3 more guys next turn and swing at you.
Exactly.
So, pretty solid. But the next card is one of the slimes, and I love the slimes. The slimes are great. I know they're definitely a crowd favorite, and this one is pretty cool. So, red slime. It's a 3/2 body for 3. A tamer beast. Pride 3 with a class bonus. On death, deal damage to all allies equal to red slime's power. What did you give this guy?
So this is the one I tabbed between.
Sure.
And like trying to figure out what I want to do because I almost felt like So I gave it a 2.
I also gave it a 2.
You gave it a 2.
So yeah, so
that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
So the reason why I gave it a 2
Sure.
is because not only does it does to all allies, which is really important, because if you're playing Tamer, which generally likes to put stuff on board, and this dies, then you have the potential to nuke your own board. And the enemy obviously can see that pretty easily.
Sure.
It only has 2 health, which is both good and negative. And then also, it's because it is on death, when you go to attack in, they just don't have to retaliate to like, they're like, oh, I'll attack in, it'll die because trades with something. They'll just be like, no, I just want to retaliate. And then I killed one thing, but now their whole board is still safe. So it's not like just an instant clear either. So it'd be like you have to kill it almost, because they're only going to kill it when you have a board, and you're only going to kill it when you don't have a board or when they have a huge board.
Sure. So I wrote about this. So I think this card's actually pretty strong, but I just think when I put it at 3 because or a 2 because I don't know if it has the support yet. I don't see like a very control-y or super combo oriented. I guess we do have like some melody combo decks in red.
Yeah.
With maybe they don't play a ton of allies to begin with.
Right.
So this could, in theory, be something that is a beat stick, right? It does have 3 attack for 3, which is a higher than average. I think, what is it? Like a 2-3 for 3 is pretty average.
2-3 for 3, and there's some kind of something
right.
in there.
So 3-2 is, you kind of reverse that. Has good attack, but a little worse, obviously, toughness. But if they do kill it, so if they do have allies out, or if you are swinging about, obviously, and they feel pressured by it, because these do pressure. Yeah. Right? They do pressure. So that 3 damage is nothing to scuff at. So with that there, you could, in theory, keep it out, attack, and they have to deal with it before they commit to the board.
And there's potential. I know there's a card from Dawn of Ashes that is, I believe, deal 2 to a target ally and give it +2 attack.
Oh, shit.
And so in that case, it'd be like a deal 5.
Yeah.
But it's a 2-card combo. So if Tamer is like dying for a board sweep and it just needs it for some reason, and it's maybe playing more just huge body beast or whatever, then that could be a combo that we see as well.
Yeah, and it's also cool to think like you could potentially get multiples of this out. And then hit the damage across the board.
That would be hilarious.
Which is kind of cool.
I hope I see that.
Yeah, so, and there is one thing that I'm a little curious about. I'm not 100% sure how this reads. I know that it says when slime dies, deal 3 damage. Deal damage to all allies equal to his power. So like if you do pump him up, obviously you can, like you said, do damage across the entire board. But is that damage considered attack damage? Or is that damage considered spell damage? Because I think it's going to be attack damage because it's coming from an ally. But
that's a good point.
It's a good, so maybe there's a little bit of play for a card like this, and I'm sure that we'll talk about this in the comments below.
Yeah, we'll probably, if we find out, we'll tag it too.
Oh, 100%, because I am curious about that, because that does matter.
Yeah.
Because if everyone's playing a ton, if you're playing a red control deck, and they're playing, and that becomes a meta strong deck, and people are playing anti-spell power, anti-spell damage, sweep support, and then you play something like red slime and then pop it and kill their board, and it hits with attack. I mean, there's a world where this card has some play. Yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure.
But we could definitely move on to the next one.
Yeah. Next one is Verucan Acolyte. 3 cost 0/1. So not great stat lines, but that's not the point of this card. The point of this card is that it's on an enter effect, which is destroy target regalia with memory cost 0. And then at level 3 plus, Verucan Acolyte gets +3. So then it could be a 3/1 in a later game.
Sure.
What did you give us?
So I gave this card a 3.
Yep. I gave it 3 as well. This almost could be 4 because this is like can take the place of Spurn to Ash and gives you maybe a body.
Sure. It's another one of those on a stick cards, right?
Yes, yeah. And in the early game, the stick is really low.
Yeah.
And real small.
Yeah.
But in later games, it's okay because it also be some little bit chip damage, maybe face or something like that. So this, I just see it as you may just replace Spurn to Ash in a, maybe if you're playing Fire and you're doing stuff that isn't, mage spells that you're trying to, do stuff from your graveyard, and they have Lantern out, then this can get rid of it.
Sure.
And then it has a little bit of a body as well.
Yeah, I think it's a strong sideboard card.
Yes.
And and I think that's really where I saw its merit is coming out of the side on enter, destroy target regalia with memory cost 0, and then like you said, it does have that late game. It is a 3/1.
Yep.
So that is something to obviously think about. But decent card. I don't know how much we'll see play, but definitely, I guarantee you will see it out of a sideboard or something similar.
For sure. And next we get to go on to our regalia.
Yeah,
so,
and there's not a lot of fire regalias.
There isn't. There's 5.
5, yeah.
Yeah. So, Terry, do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah. So this first one is kind of a cool one. It's called Beast Soul Visage. Or is it Visage? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Zero cost. Regalia item, tamer accessory with ally link. And that is a new keyword that we've seen on a few cards.
Yep.
This object enters the field linked to target ally. If the link is broken, sacrifice this object. So if this comes down and you put it on an ally, that ally dies, this gets destroyed. The linked ally gets 2 attack, has Pride 3, and is a beast in addition to its other types.
Yeah.
What did you put this at?
I gave it a 3.
Okay. I gave it a 2.
Okay. Because I'm not sure.
This
is the card where I literally read it. I was like, I don't know.
No, and I mean totally. That's why I gave it a 2, because I was like, this card seems like there's a reason, right?
Yeah,
There's definitely some good stuff going on here. At first, I know that I went to some of the devs and asked them because I said, hey, this says has Pride 3. Does Pride 3 supersede if they have a different Pride?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I was like, so like, let's say I have something with Pride 5, Pride
Yeah.
6, and I play this on it. Is it going to get stronger and its Pride changes to 3? Unfortunately, that's not how that works.
Okay, I didn't even know that. And
Yeah.
that would have been sick.
Yeah. No, that's what I said. I was like, oh my God, this card's insane. I remember when I first saw it, I thought it was insane.
Yeah.
Because I thought that happened like that. But then, obviously, after confirming it, that's not how it happened.
Gotcha.
So without that, I'm telling you, we're going to be wrong about it. This card's going to end up being a 4 of in all these red decks, and we're going to be like, holy crap.
Or,
I didn't see
one
that.
of, but
Yeah. Right, a 1 of, right, sorry. But you're going to see it. You're going to see it get played.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And I don't know, man. It's a cool card. Art's really cool. I'm excited to see more, weapon / enchant creature type cards that you put onto something and it makes them stronger.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
But we'll move on to the next one.
Our next one.
Yeah. You take this
It's a
one.
0-cost explosive rune. So banish the rune, deal 1 damage to a target. Class bonus: if the ally is attacking, deal 2 damage instead. Hey Terry, what did you give this?
So out of every single card I rated, had 1-star card.
Yeah.
And this was it.
This is it. I gave it a 2.
Okay.
I saw 1 redeeming quality.
Okay, let me hear it, because maybe you can change my mind.
My only redeeming quality, and I don't know if this is good enough, is that you can bring it out early for free.
Sure.
And it's specifically against another red deck to ping off their deal 4 damage blazing bowman. That's the only reason.
Okay.
I was like, and yeah, I could deal 2 to it. And if they're attacking, so it's all those bodies that are just like, or the Imperious, the one that gains like a bunch of attack.
Sure.
For how many more opponents do you have on board, or how many allies you have on board? Same thing. They could deal 2 damage to it and ping it off. So the only thing was like a little bit of safety.
Sure.
I don't think that's good enough though.
So for me, I see the merit in this card. I see what it can do. Like, the big thing I thought about was being an assassin player. You know how excited I am about Gawain, and this card stops that.
Yeah.
And I see that, but the problem here is we have so much, especially with the set, just a ridiculous amount of cards that we want to put into our material
I
box.
know. Yeah.
And there's so much power, like so much gas in the set
Yep.
to get added to what we already have, to where this card taking up a slot seems a little rough. Maybe if you're that scared about them picking apart your hand against an assassin deck, you sideboard something like this. But
Yeah.
I think that's way too like small of a situation. So for me, man, I don't think this is going to see a lot of competitive play. If this was a card out of the deck, I think it has a little more play.
Yeah.
But because it's taking one of your 12 cards in your material deck, I just don't think it gets there.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
No.
And our next card, Terry, you want to?
Yeah, the next one is Fire Tongue.
Yeah.
It is a 2 damage, 1 durability, 1 cost regalia weapon, warrior sword with a class bonus on attack.
Yeah.
You may banish a fire element card from your graveyard. If you do, put a durability counter on Fire Tongue. This card's actually kind of cool. What'd you rate it?
I gave it a 4.
Yeah, I also gave it a 4.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah.
And mine was a hopeful 4 that this is played in some fire deck. Obviously, it's only a warrior deck, obviously. That really is buffing up those. it's buffing up like any of your like flame sweeps or whatever, where it's now flame sweep is dealing extra 2 damage, and this stays alive. And after you attack, I'm assuming it works like that because you can attack with both your weapon and your card or whatever, your attack card. So this being a constant 2 effect or +2 to flame sweeps in like every flame sweep in your future, pretty much as long as you can banish cards from your graveyard, is pretty solid. Also, I like that it's not playing off of the whole like you're just banishing 1 card from your graveyard. So with a lot of the cards that we've seen where they banish more, they banish more cards from your graveyard, like Raccoon or something like that, and it's like, well, I only need 1 in there, and it doesn't have to be like a floating memory or anything like that. So I think there's a lot of viability to it.
I think this is an auto include in any beatdown Red Warrior strategy.
Sure.
Because a
constant swing too.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. So I talked about a little bit. I can't remember if it was in this video with fire or with water, but if you do have one of these beatdown decks where you really want to be pushing through you want to make sure that your champion is swinging every turn to add to that damage. You're really trying to beat them down quickly. This card is an absolute dream, and all those little weenies or low to the ground red allies that are getting killed as you move through just become fodder for this card. And so I think that that's really where it gets its power. But
for sure.
The next one is a pretty cool one as well. I'll do this one and I'll let you take the last one.
Sure.
So this one is Spirit of Serene Fire, and we've already talked a little bit about these new spirits, right? So this is the new Fire Spirit. On enter, glimpse 6, draw 6 cards, and then it has that lineage release, recover 6. So these cards, I kind of give them all the same rating as we went through. I gave them all like a 4 or 5, right in between. Here, So I gave it a 4 because I don't. Honestly, it is a 5 by our rating, but in power, I think that it is a 4. It gives you a mulligan and all those things, but what do you think about these? I know we've talked a little bit off camera about these, but what do you think about these?
So, and this one actually one I wanted to bring up specifically because I did end up getting all 5 by our rating or whatever that we did.
Sure.
And by the way, just quick reminder, a 5 in our book is one that changes the meta. So these obviously would change the meta. The reason why I actually gave this one probably even more of a solid 5 was because my thing is that Fire doesn't have access to almost any kind of recover. Blue has a ton. So in Blue, to me, it's like, it's a little bit weaker because Blue has a bunch of other recover cards and a bunch of other protection. Red actually has less, and so maybe this becomes more useful to them where it's like they need to get one more swing in with their guys. And this can provide that for them. I do like these. I think they provide a lot of unique case scenarios, and where like Kevin mentioned in our last video where you do just sideboard one of these maybe. And I think in that case maybe this even comes better even for red, like I said, recovering. You're gonna, maybe last time you died by, like, man, if I actually did have Serene Fire and like you're playing against a deck that is pretty consistent, you're like, okay, I need to sideboard that in, or I need to definitely put that in my deck. Because
and it's important to remember that when you do use that, you are losing that element.
Yes, it is very important.
So that is important to remember.
You can only use normal cards or your whatever advanced element if you're level 3.
Which you're hoping, if you are playing this in a level 3 deck, that you're already to your your final element.
Or if you're playing a norm deck.
Or if you're playing Alpha Allen.
Exactly.
then you're absolutely fine. I think that you nail on the head. And Caben talked about it in our water video. You talked about it here. I think these cards are really, really strong out of the sideboard. Once you know your opponent, you know what the matchup is, you're bringing in sideboard cards that you want to see. Mulligans are really strong, and I think we could do an entire video on these spirits easily. So I'm just gonna leave it there and say that they are very strong. I think they will be meta defining, like you said.
And we'll go on to our last fire card for today's video. Verucan's Soul Knife is a Regalia weapon, assassin dagger, class bonus and element bonus. You may banish 3 fire elemental cards from your graveyard to activate this card from your material deck. Then and another class bonus on kill, return Verucan's Soul Knife to your material deck. So this is real. What did you rate this?
I gave it a 2.
I gave it 2 as well.
You got to stop copying me, Isaac. I don't know how you must have looked at all of my answers before you wrote it.
That was it.
Why'd you give it a 2?
So to me, this is a worse version.
Sure.
Of what we just called something tongue. The other one we
Fire
just
tongue.
Fire tongue.
Yeah.
because it's
Or Flame Zone?
whatever it is.
Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah,
You guys know what it is.
Yeah.
This is that one you get to attack for 2, and if you're a warrior and you can banish something from your graveyard, then you get it. Then you get that back, right? And you get that durability on it. So it's 2. This is a 1/1, and it goes back in your deck. So you have to materialize it every single time from your deck if you want to get use out of it, right? Unless you want to do the whole banish 3 fire cards from your graveyard. That's a pretty big ask.
Yeah, I think this card I wrote like a decent amount of notes on it because when I was reading it, I was really thinking about it. It is a 0 cost. I think you can banish 3 fire element cards from your graveyard to activate this card from your material deck. I think you can do that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think you can do that basically at slow speed. So you don't have to materialize it. You can do this during your main and be like, okay, I've already materialized this card. I don't have a materialized phase. This is in there. I'm going to get rid of 3 fire cards. This card comes into play. I think that's how it works. And with that being said, I still think it's a 2 because I still think it's kind of fringe. It's a 1/1 on kill, return it to your material deck. I literally wrote this card seems like it's absolutely broken, but I don't know how because it doesn't have the support I think it needs.
Okay, when we kill us if we didn't mention this.
Yeah.
The 1 cost, trash your weapon and deal 4 damage.
Blazing Throw.
So I know it's good with that.
Oh, snap.
And so
why'd you have to bring that up?
Yeah.
Now everybody's going to see that and everyone's going to be just blazing throwing me 6 times in one turn.
So that's the thing. So you can bring this out, play a blazing Throw, deals 4 damage because you can't swing with this because it's going to trash it. Or, well, it's going to put it back into your material deck. So
yeah, because you got to kill something.
Blazing Throw is giving you an additional card in your graveyard. So technically you only have to banish 2 cards from your graveyard every time you're using a Blazing Throw to bring it out next time.
You can only do Blazing Throw once, because...
Once per turn?
No, it has to kill.
So basically...
Oh, it has to kill.
This allows you to do Blazing Throw twice in a turn.
Because you can materialize
it. You can also do this one.
Yeah.
But once you Blazing Throw it, it's just going to get banished.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know where I'm going.
No. That's a good point. Man, this card, like I said, the fact that you get a free Blazing Throw, even if you have no weapon, is pretty cool. You don't have to waste your materialized step to bring this card out to Blazing Throw. You don't have to bring out some random sword you have in there to use it. You can bring out something that you think might help you, maybe something that help you push game, and then also have that Blazing Throw.
Yeah, and I think my only worry, because I did think about that, my only worry, and granted mine was a high 2,
sure.
I was almost going to 3, but is that there's too much protection in this game, and there might be too much healing to where I don't know if one deck runs rampant. Like if you're playing fire and you go into blue, I feel like you're gonna feel real sad because they're gonna recover that 4 no problem with was it Fast Cure where the one that just heals you 4?
Sure.
That was Blazing Throw, and they can just I'm just gonna heal 4.
Yeah.
And then they can use it for floating memory.
Yeah.
And so I think there might be Blazing Throw is great, but I don't know if Blazing Throw does enough anymore, which sounds weird.
I mean, it's going to be a card. You're going to see it a lot. It's still a burn spell to the face. And this card is get it for free if you're playing like a very heavy fire deck. And you're in a situation, because you don't have to bring this out. And you don't have to, banish 3 fire if you're going for the rending attack or something like that. We're going more for, okay, what do I have in my hand? I top deck that card. Oh, it's Blazing Throw.
Sure.
And now I'm like, okay, well, crap. I have 3 fires. Let's do this. Boom. Does it get me the game? I know for a fact I will lose to this card.
Sure.
Where it's at the very end of the game, they have no cards
Top
in their
deck.
hand. They're in top deck mode. They draw that card. They have a little smirk. I go, what are you doing? And they start going, okay, I'm going to banish 3 fire cards to bring Farouk and Soul Knife out. And I'm like, I'm dead. I know that's going to happen. I'm going to die to that. And so I've already, figured that one out. Honestly, I have 2 on it because I do think it's a little fringe, but I think we're going to actually see this as an almost auto-include in really aggressive red decks.
Sure.
So I forgot about Blazing Throw, man. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm changing my rating right here on stream.
That's all right. I think that's why we do this.
Gosh, man.
That's it for us, though, for fire cards.
Ugh, fire, man.
I feel like fire is going to be an interesting one. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to play test a lot to feel like to get an actual good feel for every card.
Yeah,
more
I
so
mean,
than the other ones.
fire ran rampant in the first set, so definitely has the least amount of cards being put into the set, I believe, as far as all the other elements.
One of the least, yeah.
One of the least, if not the least. So, I guess the only time will tell, man.
Yeah, true.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, talking about fire. Been really great having you guys. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you really like what you're seeing. Hit the little bell so that you always get updates when we post new videos.
I never hit the bell.
Well, maybe you can start doing it. No,
Maybe.
but thank you guys again so much, and we will see you on the next one. Take it easy.